Welcome to ePathshala. I am Devika P. Madalli, Professor at Documentation Research and Training Center, Indian Statistical Institute. Today I will talk about web-based information retrieval, which is a module under information storage and retrieval. As we know, the World Wide Web is a large collection of very disparate resources, and users generally go to the World Wide Web in search of some document or the other. And we also know that World Wide Web is mainly based on our client server architecture, where a large number of resources are served out using hypertext protocol. So, this module deals with what are the issues in web based information retrieval, how the users interact with the web in search of the resources they want, and how the search engines on the web will try and serve the documents needed by the users. Basic searching. The World Wide Web is a huge system based on client-server architecture with millions of distributed servers worldwide. The server maintains a collection of documents, and each document is stored as a file, although these documents can also be generated on request. A server accepts requests for providing a document and then it sends it to the client. Requests for storing new documents can also be made to the server. Web document. So, let us see what is a web document. A document in this context can be anything that can be displayed on a user's computer terminal, such as personal notes, figures, drawings, reports, blueprints, and so on. By connecting documents to each other, it becomes easy to integrate them from various places or systems on the web into a new document without the need for physically moving files. The only thing required for this is to establish link between documents in order to provide connection to other relevant documents. This connection is done through hyperlinking. Linking. The easiest technique to refer to a document is by a reference known as Uniform Resource Locator. This specifies the location of a document. Here, a client or a user interacts with the web servers with the help of a special application called browser. A browser has the responsibility of properly displaying a document. It also accepts inputs from a user, usually by allowing the user to select a reference to another document that it subsequently fetches and then displays. Document model. In the web environment, all information is represented in the form of documents. There are many ways to express a document in the web environment. Some documents are as simple as an ASCII text file, while others are maybe a collection of scripts which gets automatically executed if the document is downloadable into a web browser. A document can contain references to other documents in the form of hyperlinks. That is, when a document is opened in the web browser, hyperlinks to other documents are visible to the users. Users can follow a link by clicking on it. Document model. Hypertext markup language, or simply HTML, is the basic building block of the web documents. This is a markup language that provides markup tags to provide structure to a web document. The document is structured into various sections. For example, each HTML document is divided into a heading section and a main body section. HTML also provides tags or keywords to distinguish headers, tables, lists, and forms. It also enables to insert images and animations into a document. Besides these structural elements, HTML provides various keywords to provide instruction to the browser how to render the document. Document naming. The WWW uses a naming scheme to identify documents. This is known as Uniform Resource Identifier, or simply as URIs. URIs consists of an URL, Uniform Resource Locator, which identifies a document by including information on the location of the document, and the URN, which is Uniform Resource Name, which acts as the true identifier by providing reference to a document. So, that is about the structure of the web and the structure of a web document. Now, let us see about the types of information resources on internet or resources. Information source is a source of information, anything that may provide any kind of information that is present on the web in this case. Generally, we categorize sources into three types, that is primary sources, secondary sources and tertiary sources. So, let us see in the parlance of the web what are these kind of sources. Primary sources. Primary sources are original information sources. They are from the time period involved and have not been interpreted or evaluated. They are usually in the first formal appearance of information, either in physical or print or electronic format, and in this case we call it as web format. Some examples are journal articles, artifacts like some coins, audio recordings like radio programs, internet communications, email, listservs, interviews, journal articles, newspaper articles or proceedings of meetings, survey research, and many such things come under the category of primary sources. Secondary sources. Secondary sources of information are those which are either compiled from or refer to primary sources of information. They are interpretations and evaluations of primary sources. Secondary sources are not evidence, but they are a commentary on and discussions of evidence. Some examples of secondary sources are bibliographies and bibliographical works, dictionaries, encyclopedia, though some encyclopedia can also be tertiary, then textbooks, monographs and such. So, tertiary sources generally means that they are derived either out of the primary sources, like we gave the example of newspaper or article or any kinds of interviews or radio article pieces. So, tertiary sources can either be like compilations of the primary sources, like in the case of bibliography is they take the bibliographical details of each of the books or articles and compile them, so that at one point somebody gets a reference about all works either by an author or in a particular domain. Similarly, the directories also work. The directories can be directories of for example say institutes working in particular areas, or it can be a directory of persons or experts working in particular domains and such, and guides to literature. So, all these sources work as tertiary sources. So, the kind of categorization that we are normally used to is primary, secondary and tertiary, and when we compare this kind of categories to web based information, the same holds true in the web also. We have primary sources, like maybe we talk about blogs, we talk about social media where somebody is typing out a piece of news, we talk about newspaper online and such things. Then we talk about secondary sources, which are digested sources of information, which are again present as web resources. And then we talk about tertiary, which is again like directories and directory structures, bibliographies, which are also present on internet. So, but the only difference in internet is the type of resource. Though we call it as primary, secondary and tertiary, the type of files may vary. It could be an audio, it could be video, it could be image, it could be text, or it could be some other format not used for general purpose but for special purposes. So, there lies the challenge how to search and retrieve different types of media which stand for primary, secondary and tertiary sources. So, this brings the discussion to what is IR in the classic method, that is the classic IR, and how it differs from web based information retrieval. So, information retrieval is a very important task done by most persons today, and they do it not only for academic or scholarly purpose, but also for the daily life requirements maybe to find a place where a person is going, or maybe to find nearest dentist. Many such requirements occur in the life of a common person, and most probably they are using internet to find out what is their requirement. So how did it work in the classic IR system, and how we can compare this to web-based information system? So in the classic IR system, both resources and the users were more or less predictable or homogeneous. So take the example of the online public access catalogs. What did the OPACs contain? Mostly they had bibliographic records, and these bibliographic records were stored in a structured manner, and this structure was predicted on the basis of what the user wants to find. Due to this nature of stored data, the search and retrieval process became very easy, because this was a very controlled environment. The books or any other information sources within libraries and digital libraries were known to the person who was designing the system and structuring it, and this the knowledge of what the user would look for was also very easily detectable, and hence in that environment, in the classic IR environment, the success rate of precision was much more. The user group were also mainly comprised people from academic, research, subject experts or librarians. These people are well aware of search keywords, search techniques, and how to find a particular document. So in the classic IR, though there were IR challenges, but it was in a much more controlled environment. With the emergence of web, there became a flooding of digital information, and this digital information is very unstructured, uneven and heterogeneous. So to cope up with this, it's very difficult, and to cope up with this situation, the web-based IR systems evolved. Web-based IR systems mainly look for the searched keywords in a maintained list of index file to retrieve the original document present on the web. So the main difference here is it is not a controlled environment, it is quite uncontrolled. In the way the web is populated, that means anybody who has access to a web server and who knows basic HTML and who can upload documents and has the permission, the means to do it, can start uploading resources. That is the first thing. The second thing is these resources which are uploaded on the web are not structured, or everybody does not give some kind of a cataloging or metadata information. It is simply populated from any location. So this becomes a kind of a very uneven and a very spontaneous kind of a population that happens, and there is no standard or manner of recognizing what the document stands for, what are the parts of the document, and such information is not provided on the web. So the only clue the web information retrieval system has is to go on observing what are the keywords that are occurring from the users. That also is not very easy, because so many different users are simultaneously using the internet for different purposes, and hence the search key terms they use are very, very heterogeneous. But some studies are done to just observe what kind of keywords are supplied by the users and what kind of querying and query refinement is going on. So this is the general scenario in the web when we talk about information retrieval, and these also poses a big challenge to web-based information retrieval. Coming to search engines. Search engines are computer programs that search for particular keywords entered by users and return a list of documents in which they were found. It is a special service that searches the contents of the web. Sometimes they not only search keywords, rather some of the search engines search for other things such as synonymous and related concepts also. There are various types of search engines, mainly depending upon how they collect data and how they conduct the search. Search engines are mainly of 4 types: crawler-based search engines such as AltaVista, human-powered directories such as Dmotes, hybrid search engines such as Google, and meta search engines such as Dogpile. So human-powered directories are really involve human effort, where people have contributed to making directories. Directories are nothing but creating a kind of hierarchy of classes and subclasses, and finally indexing documents under these classes and subclasses which are human created. Because of the human interventions, the precision level in such directories is much more than the automated system. Hybrid search engines such as Google may involve different kinds of techniques together, such as for example, it may provide a search interface. First of all, people or general users can key in data, what they want, key in a search term and conduct the search. If they are not happy, they want to then go to a directory structure of Google, they can still go to directory structure and then drill down the directories. At certain point in the directory, if they want to again come back to search, they can from there issue the search. So these kind of hybrid techniques are used in search engines like Google. The last one is mentioned is meta search engine like Dogpile, which is a search engine of search engines. That means several search engines are compiled by this service, and when the end user will issue a kind of a query, this is delegated or sent away to many search engines, and the answers from each search engine is compiled by Dogpile and given as written in a single interface, so that the user has searched many search engines using just one interface of Dogpile. So this is called as meta search engines. There are various. One example is Dogpile. Search engine features. So search engines have various features which may be used by the end user for conducting the search. So these techniques or features are generally Boolean search, proximity search, field level search, phrase search and limited search. There are various others also. Here some of the very salient ones are mentioned. So let us look at each kind of search. For example, Boolean search, this is the most common one used by users. There are three basic operators in the Boolean search. So that may be AND, or not. A combination of keywords can be used using these operators AND, or not, and then the search can be conducted. And by default, the search engines use OR, and the user of course can specify what they need and in what order. Sometimes the AND, OR and NOT are not used as the spelling AND or OR and NOT. They are used by some kind of a symbol like using plus or minus operators, and these are combined with keywords to really indicate what is the keyword required and in what combination it must be required. There are other options to select all the words as it is offered in Google. So that means we are specifying that all the words used in a particular search term are important and they should occur in the document retrieved. So Boolean is one of the most common one, and this can also be, Boolean is also used not only in one search term between terms but also between the various fields. So we can say that in certain field called maybe author, this name will occur, and in title this will occur. So in this way we can use the operator and be more specific about what retrieval we need. The next one which is generally used is called proximity search. This looks for two or more words which occur within a certain number of words from each other. That means what is the proximity between two words. So if we have information retrieval system, the words information and system are separated from each other by one word which is retrieval. That means they are in the proximity of each other by one. That means one word may separate the word information and system. In this case, in this example, it is the word retrieval that is separating these two. This is called proximity, and Google also supports this by a function called around. So around this term, this or that may occur. Like that we can give the search and it will retrieve. The next one, which is very commonly used especially in bibliographic database, is called field level search. So this can happen only when the information that we are searching is really structured into fields. So suppose, like I told the example of bibliographic records, we have title, author, place, publisher, such indicators for fields, then we can use in title, search for the term, so and so. So if I want a document on classification, we say in title the word classification should occur. So that is called field level search. Of course, as I said, the prerequisite for this is the information itself is structured into fields. The next technique is a phrase search. So a phrase search is to search for a phrase in a document using double quotes. So a phrase is basically more than one word together used. So whenever we just search using for a phrase, not using double quotes, suppose, so each word of that phrase is searched independently and all are retrieved in the retrieved set, which is not a desirable event. So we want to specify that it is not each word of the phrase that we want, but the phrase itself that we want. So in such a situation, we use what is called as a phrase search. So phrase, we use whatever that is the phrase, a two-worded term or a multi-worded term we use, but we use double quotes around that and say that we want this to occur as such in the document. That is the specification the user is giving. So this is called a phrase search. The other kind is a limiting search for a document. So the limit that we can search specify is, for example, by date. We can say that this document should be before or after such a date. That can be one of the limiting search. Or we can say that I only want to search by this file type. So suppose I am looking for a PowerPoint presentation on a particular topic like classification. I can say I want a file type PPT on the word is classification. So such a combination of file type and the search term can be used. This is used in the search engine Google. So these are the features of search engines. There are also some very advanced search engines and applications present. Advanced search engines and applications. So with the origin of many file types and the many varied types of resources available on web, the search engines also evolved with it. So advanced search engines with advanced applications are now available. So generally people use Google as a search engine for any general purpose search. So that we have got. But there are also particular search engines which only search image, like Google itself has Google Maps to where we can search a place on a map rather than a place as a text word. But there are even particular and specialist image search facilities like TinEye, for example, which uses what is called reverse image search, and Gazopa, which uses similar image search. So these are very specialized search engines which can search image, and through image we can arrive at a text file. That means we are issuing an image as a search, and then suppose we are giving the image of a cat, and then we can, when we search, it arrives at the documents which has information on cat, or it may be a veterinary doctor dealing with cats, and such information we can arrive at. So here we are starting with an image as a search object, but we are getting various documents retrieved against that search query. There is also specialist search engines to search what is called the invisible or the deep web, and these are known as invisible searches. The searching internet is always mostly at the surface level. This we have to realize. So what about the documents that are in the deep web? For example, what about database documents which are in a very deeply encoded into some software? There is a kind of a step we have to go through metadata, we have to conduct search, and then we have to retrieve documents from databases. So these are deep web, and some are invisible web because these are not visible on the surface of the web. There are search engines which help us to reach such documents also, or such resources also, and these are called invisible search, that is invisible web search. And one example of this is Complete Planet. And then there is a more complex level of search which is called as semantic search, and a very popular search engine that gives semantic search is called as Youmli, also pronounced as Yumli. So semantic searches are for conducting meaning based search. So whenever we are using some kind of a search interface or a search box and typing something that we need, for example, if I say weather of Bangalore on August 31st, does the search engine understand it as weather in Bangalore on August 31st, as human beings understand, is the question. Okay. Naturally not. It will just understand the word weather as weather, Bangalore as Bangalore, August as August. It will not try to correlate this weather in Bangalore on August 31st. This is the big challenge. So to make a search engine understand this meaning also behind the terms, we have to use semantics, and such a search is called as semantic search engine. Now coming to web directory. Web directory is also known as link directory, and it's a type of directory available on the web. The basic purpose is to provide links to other websites, and it also sort of gives the links in a classified order. In a way, it is not like a search engine, because this displays a list of links which, according to some classes and subclasses. So the popular example, of course, is Yahoo directories and dmotes. So to conduct semantics or to embed semantics, we need what is called as ontology. Okay? So we need to understand what an ontology is. The concept of ontologies originated very long back, as long back as 2000 years ago, from a philosophical level, and specifically from Aristotle's theory of categories. But ontologies have been evolved and have been used today in today's world to understand resources on the web better, by representing information. Ontology. The concept of ontologies originated more than 2000 years ago from a philosophical background, more specifically from Aristotle's theory of categories. The purpose of ontologies is to provide categorization of all existing things in the world, and the basic purpose of using ontologies is to give semantics or meaning to concepts. And such meaning is achieved in ontology because of its very structure itself. The structure of an ontology is not only to explain and outlay all the concepts, also to establish conceptual relation between one concept to another concept. So the main features of ontology is that the ontology provides a shared understanding of domains. Ontology is useful to represent and to facilitate the sharing of domain knowledge between humans and automatic agents. It's also very useful for organization and navigation of information on websites, and it is useful for improving the accuracy of web searches. So web searches can exploit the generalization and specialization of information. So the important thing about ontology is that it is actually a knowledge representation or a domain representation. It is a structured representation of domains. It's a formalized, structured representation. So for example, if a concept at a higher level and a more generic level is, how is it related to a more specific level? Through how many relationships can we arrive at a more specific level? Such things are embedded in ontology. As already explained, ontology is representing concepts at the different levels, but not only that, it is representing these concepts through conceptual relationship, and hence such a representation can work as a background information for semantic searches, and this is what the semantic search engine exploits. Semantic search. So semantic search is a combined effort of semantic web and semantic search technologies, which is designed to solve complex queries, automatic clustering, and managing of large number of web documents. So from the web point of view, each semantic web data is addressed by URLs and retrieved as form of semantic web documents. So a semantic web is an extensive collection of static or dynamic semantic web documents, which is a SWT, and it is distributed on the web space. Meta information to each ontology is available and executes the searching and matching operation very optimally and retrieves ontologies stored in an ontology registry, providing compact representation of efficient search and reuse of related ontologies. So what it means is that there are ontologies which are already constructed for different domains, and semantic search is executed as a layer on top of such ontologies. So, semantic search basically exploits the power of representation and the embedded relationships the ontology have achieved. So, examples of such search engines which are ontological are Swoggle and Watson. So, when a search is conducted in Swoggle and a word is given, for example, a person can simply come and say he or she is searching on cars. So, when a term is given as cars, it can mean many things. A car can be discussed in many different contexts. So, what a semantic search engine does is it takes the concept behind cars and presents it to the search engine and produces many contexts in which the car is present. So, the car can be seen as a vehicle on the road, or a car can be seen as a commodity in commerce for export and import, and such many other contexts in which a car can be. A car can also be seen in the social context of studying car accidents or how good is a car or not. Okay. In many contexts the same concept can occur, and how can this be disambiguated? So, this disambiguation is done depending on which ontology this semantic search is going to use. So, this is where semantic search is completely different from the basic search engines that do not use such semantics. And of course, because of the effort involved, it is giving much more precise results than the common search engines. Web-based information retrieval, for all the reasons discussed so far, can be very challenging, as we have seen. The number of users are huge, the number of resources are huge, that is the first challenge, and also the number of the kind of information available on the web is very heterogeneous and very unrelated, and the user query is also very divergent. So, how to make all this work is the problem of today's web search engines. So, we have discussed the different types of search engines. We have also discussed the different techniques they use, and it is really day to day the web search engines have improved and progressed towards giving semantic based search retrieval also. So, as the time passes, it is seen that web search engines are improving and the web based information retrieval is becoming more precise.